we do. You're all set now.
All right. Well, wonderful. Would you like to lead us off, Karen?
Sure. Would you like the opening statement?
Yes, please.
Okay. The Historic Landmarks Commission was established to preserve, protect, and foster the rehabilitation of the town's historic edifices to ensure that growth of the community is commensurate with the historic significance. The commission operates under the authority granted to it by HF Ordinance Article 131 as set forth in West Virginia Code 8-26A-4. The qualifications of the commission members are on file with the town and are hereby made a part of the record for each and every action of the commission at today's meeting. The basis for commission administrative approval or recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals is the Harpers Ferry Historic District Standards and Guidelines. They are hereby made a part of the record of each and every action of the commission at today's meeting. Each application heard today is considered on its own merit and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application.
Wonderful. Great job. And I believe the first item on the agenda is, well, approval of agenda, right? So are there any comments or objectives to the agenda?
I move we accept the agenda, approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, I approve. I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And I think from there we go to minutes, right? And thank you so much, Karen, for putting together the minutes. I move that we approve the minutes that were submitted by Karen.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. And then from there, I believe we have just the two new line items that I really thought we should address maybe tonight. And one was development of recommendations, our recommendation for the two properties listed on the agenda. And actually, Karen, are you able to see which one is at the top?
I have 391 Clay Street retaining wall permit.
Yeah. And Steve, are you familiar with this project?
Not intimately, no, but I was reading the application here. You want to talk me through it or give me a description?
Sure. Yeah, sure. And Karen, likewise, were you able to take a look at this project?
I looked at, was there documentation that was included in an email? I've read through two of those.
Yeah, there's been a lot of back and forth on this project. You know, this is one that, you know, actually a neighbor of mine, sort of catty corner neighbor down the hill from myself, simply trying to build a driveway. So digging in a bit from the road, which requires, I believe, some kind of variance from the town to permit. But I think the part of the project that really fell under our purview was the need for a retaining wall to create this additional space to park a vehicle.
Oh yeah, this was a material issue, wasn't it? Was something like
Right.
cinder block or something of that nature?
That's right. That's right. It was, you know, manufactured stone blocks that were being suggested for the project, and whether, you know, we could provide some guidance and feedback around that. And we ended up having a conversation with town, several representatives from the town about that project. And in my understanding that, you know, I was told by somebody that maybe the owner had decided to not continue pursuing the project. So I'm not sure if has anybody heard that this is no longer being pursued?
I have not heard that.
Okay. But I mean, the reason it came before us was the choice of material, was the stone that they were proposing to use, and could we find an alternate material to propose? Natural stone being a top choice, followed perhaps by wood, and maybe lastly, hoping that the owner would agree to apply maybe a stucco or a plaster to the wall. So that's where things had come to us, were to make a recommendation. Now, my understanding from the ordinance is that actually plaster is not approved by the town. So I was curious to see if Steve had any background on why that might be, that stucco plaster would not be an approved material, because you can see it.
Actually, I don't see that here. It is identified in the masonry. So I'm looking at Appendix A of the ordinances, which is the standards and guidelines that we're supposed to follow. And I think maybe germane to this, first of all, is the entry here on alternative materials on page 13.
Yep.
The very first row in the table is natural stone. The alternative material that could be used is manufactured stone. The criteria being that it must match coloration and irregular sizing of traditional stonework of the area. So is the question then that, or the problem that the project cannot identify a manufactured product that has a regular, properly colored stone?
Right. That's the claim, because what was proposed is these, pretty standard cinder block shaped blocks.
Right, which is not what we have here as a slate product. And so then they're asking for us to, so we don't recommend products.
Right.
I think that's on the property owner to find, because there's a lot of innovation in that space. And I know that there's been a couple projects in town that did a veneering. So if they did a cinder block construction for strength, they veneered it in a laid stone coursework that would look historic. Examples I believe are the foundation of the Kennedy House on High Street. There's the one up on Fillmore that the whole house is wrapped. I think it's a couple down from you, Guy.
Yes. That's actually my neighbor.
Yes. So I know it's somewhere right there. That one, I don't know if that would look appropriate for a retaining wall, but that's an example of veneer.
Yeah. I think it's actually, it's a great point. I think that material is better for something like a retaining wall. I was one of the people who objected to using that material for a whole house.
Yep.
And I still think that kind of, at least to me, I guess maybe average visitor doesn't recognize it, but yeah. So I agree.
Yeah, I think if you live here and you kind of know and are familiar with the Harpers Ferry shale and the irregularity and the thinness of that, sizing, if it's laid properly or traditionally, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it's much closer than cinder block.
Right.
And I don't think plaster's really appropriate next to vehicles like that. I think it's not going to weather well. With door impacts and things like that.
Yep. No, that's exactly what I was hoping to get. Because I know that the park uses plaster on a lot of different kinds of walls, low walls. So I'd be okay with plaster, but yeah, I think I agree with you that the manufactured stone would be a better option.
I'm sitting here, so on page 52 of the standards, we talk about repairing disintegrating mortar, damaged interior plaster. Now, exterior plaster is parging, and that's certainly used on traditional structures. It's across the street. You know, it's
Yeah.
on the Harper house. We have parged
Yeah.
walls. You know, that's what
Right.
is supposed to cover a lot of these exposed stone basements would have been parging in the past that was removed. So I know that parging is certainly appropriate.
Well, so Karen, what do you think? I think it's up to you. What do you want to do? What would you like to recommend?
Well, I would like to recommend something that I would think is going to stand up the test of time, because if we approve something that's not going to hold up, are then we going to be pursuing them to upkeep it? And you know what I'm saying? If we have exposed cinder block at that point. So I'm not opposed to stucco. I'm just hearing some issues being brought up about maintenance and the viability of the material. I would think, you know, like a prefactured stone, some kind of stone like that would be fine. I just not sure about the stucco.
So parging is also mentioned on page 8 as a material that's defining characteristic of Harper's Ferry. We're a village of brick, stone, stucco, or parging, and wood. And that's on the exterior side. So, I mean, parging works on walls. I mean, it could work there. All I was worried about was just the fragile nature of it to door swings. You know, if you are opening a door and it hits it, but it could be blended with more cement mix in the mortar for a stronger skim. I mean, it's certainly consistent, and that is traditional and would be proper. I mean, if they really had their heart set on stone, and they were arguing they needed concrete blocks, cinder blocks for the strength. I don't know how tall this wall is that they're retaining. And I think the accommodation could be going to a veneer, but it should be something that tries to match, you know, a veneer product that matches the shale. And, and I guess I was just pointing at your neighbor, you know, something that's maybe not ideal, but was approved in this veneer.
Sorry about that.
So I think those are two recommendations we could return.
What about wood? The use of, say, like railroad ties.
Well, it's a traditional material. You're only going to get 30 years, 25 to 30 years out of wood. I have wood retaining walls on my backyard that I am now having to replace that were put down in 1995.
Yeah,
and they're already starting to rot. So, and again, something near the ground, if there's going to be water on the driveway, that might be I think I would personally recommend masonry over wood, and wood's going to have a setback canter to it, or deadheads in it, you know, to hold it vertical, and those will be more visible than they would be in a stone course. Okay,
so it sounds like maybe a motion for us to propose would be recommendation, strong recommendation for natural stone as a material first, followed by manufactured stone of similar size and color, followed by wood.
Or yeah, but I think with the manufactured, I'd put parging on cinder block second maybe, and then manufactured third.
Okay. So do we feel like we're ready to put this into a motion? Because we need to develop the goal would be our recommendation to the planning commission for this. It's either planning or zoning.
BZA. Yep.
BZA. So is that, can we,
so I guess
take a stab at making this statement?
So is the motion then, I move that the project consider the following materials for construction of the retaining wall in order of preference to be natural stone, comma, cinder block with parging, comma, cinder block with manufactured stone veneer, in the aspect of blue shale, and fourth, would be wood.
Yes, I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, I believe next on the list, I don't have it in front of me, but maybe Karen, you can help me out. What's our next topic?
156 High Street, asphalt shingle roof.
Yes, and this is one I would love to get input from both of you on this. This is, are you familiar with this property, either of
Yes,
you?
I am. It's across the street from me.
Yes.
And I think you could turn to page 35 in the standards and guidelines for guidance on this.
Yeah.
And primarily on page 36, the guidelines for all properties in the historic districts. Number 3, new wood shingles are appropriate for most early 19th century buildings. Standing seam metal roofs are appropriate for later 19th century buildings, which is the provenance of the buildings, late 19th century, when High Street was developed.
Yeah.
And furthermore, for additional standards for historic resources, number 1, existing roofs should be retained in their original configuration, form, pitch for the original features, and original materials should not be removed unless they have failed. Original materials and finishes not to be removed to create a new appearance. And so I think it's in the sense of number 2 that replacing standing seam metal. I know this is an extension. The actual aspect in discussion is the extended porch that was approved. Oh gosh, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't remember when. But that should match in material the roof, which is metal. The roof of the primary structure. And that was the original plan, as I understand it and recall it being approved.
Yeah. And how do you feel, Karen?
I think it should match. Now, currently, do they have a metal seam roof on that house right now?
They did.
The main roof,
yeah, the porch was covered in tar paper, and recently it was covered in asphalt shingles.
Yeah, we should have a congruency there with those roofs.
Right. So I think the recommendation from our committee then is basically that the roof needs to be constructed in the way that it was proposed as a standing seam metal roof.
I mean, that standard is most consistent with the guidance that we should be preserving. And I think in general, roofs of historic buildings are the dominant visual element of the historic district. The choice of roofing material is an important consideration of the design of rehabilitation work. Roof material should be consistent with the visual characteristics of traditional roof materials in Harpers Ferry, such as slate, wood, shingle, and standing seam. So all of our guidance directs me to recommend standing seam because all of the adjacent properties are standing seam.
One question that was raised to me was, what about just the rear roof? What if it's there's a rear roof that isn't really visible from the street that apparently has already been done in asphalt shingles? And so now what do we do?
Well, it's visible from High Street. You can see it through the gap.
Yeah.
From my porch. At 163 Public Way. You're going to see it from trains coming in to the station. You would see it from Maryland Heights. I mean, I accept it's in the rear of the property, but it's in the front of everything facing photographs.
Yes.
Very. I mean, it's in the profile, right?
Yep.
As a front and center visual element of the lower town.
Yep. No, I agree. I did my rear porch roof in standing seam because I think all the asphalt shingles in town should be replaced with standing seam or slate. That's just, I feel like that's what you sign up for when you roof here.
Right.
and I don't feel bad about doing it. And I'll tell you, I had to do the same thing with my gutters. I replaced them with circular gutters.
Yeah, half rounds.
Yeah. So I just feel like that's, when you move here, you got to be a part of that process of restoring and preserving as much of the history as you can. And that people, we have to have people here in town who want to do the same.
Now, Steve, did you say that this was something that was in the original approved plans that they were going to do?
It was supposed to be standing seam metal.
Okay, thank you.
He changed this unilaterally without any consultation with the town, and he did it kind of secretly. As in quickly, and was upset when it was noticed. So I don't, and then, the only other factor, it's not really germane to our charge, which is to interpret the standards, was he was making an appeal on cost and affordability. But I think that's for the BZA to decide. I think our recommendation should follow the guidance of the standards we're supposed to interpret.
Okay, thank you.
I think that is our charge, right?
Yep.
So, so I think with the three of us agreeing, Karen, how do you feel?
I think we should make a recommendation for the metal roof to match the rest of the house.
Yeah. Would you like to put that into a statement?
Sure. I'd like to make a proposal that we recommend to the Board of Zoning that the roof of 156 High Street, that we recommend that it be replaced from an asphalt shingle roof to a metal roof that matches the rest of the structure.
Good enough for you, Steve?
Better terminology there for me, Steve?
Yeah, I guess, I just quibbling a little bit about replacement, because what's there shouldn't have been there at all.
Yeah.
I think that the non-approved material should be removed and replaced with, the originally proposed material, standing seam.
Okay.
I offer that as a friendly amendment.
Would you like me to repropose or?
Or whatever makes it clean.
Okay, then I propose that we make a recommendation to the zoning board that the current asphalt shingle roof of 156 High Street be removed and be replaced by a seam metal roof as per the approval of this addition roof of a porch. I don't know how I would write that out. Sorry.
I will help.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, with that, and I'll write these out and get them off. And I will say, because we're missing a couple people, and especially Christian, because I know he had some follow-ups for the old business, I would say we go ahead and adjourn the meeting at this point, unless there are any of these other topics that you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know if you had gotten a text or I'd gotten something from Patty that Dave is actually at Town Hall, wanted to ask some questions about windows for his mom's property. He's physically there at Town Hall right now.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Yeah, I was hoping I could just pick your brain a little bit to start a discussion, because I know Guy at one point sent an email and said you've had this idea of calling all these meetings and the information on various building materials and kind of informing residents as to what the Historic Landmarks is thinking. So that's why I'm here, is that maybe you've gleaned some information on windows and put something together for that. Because we've got about, my wife and I count about 25 windows we're going to replace in the next, I don't know how many years. And
wow.
Like some of them, like there are vinyl windows in the house, which I read the appendix and it's like, I don't know how they got in there, because it says vinyl. I think Appendix A has been around for a long time, but whoever put them in, there it says you can put vinyl windows in when there was final construction of the building. This is built in the early 1900s. So our thought is to replace, at some point, replace vinyl windows with like more appropriate windows. And I want, like, if I feel like Appendix A doesn't really tell me how to do that properly. So like, what do you guys, recommend? That's one issue. The other issue is we've got, I've got some windows that are, they're 2 fixed panes and really poorly installed, and I can't find a window like that, but I can find a double hung that's single pane on top and bottom. It has just about the same thickness in the middle separating the panes. I'm wondering if that's something that would pass. You guys could have pellet here and those are 2 issues I'd like to hear some thoughts on before we start going down the path of, submitting applications and things for this.
Oh, have you had a chance to review the historic register?
No. Do you mean like the list of contributing structures or?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it for this house, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look. I will do that.
What year? What street?
It's Fillmore. It's 699 Fillmore. So around the corner below the Store College, basically.
Ah, okay. The not the bungalow.
Yeah, the really nice gardens, but we turned my mother-in-law's garage became a cottage.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that was one of the things we did this year was digitize the historic record. So yeah, and I've been putting that into a spreadsheet so that we can actually get reference points for what styles of windows were used at what styles of properties, structures from different periods.
Yeah, email out. You're right, and she's got some stuff I think you want. Oh, I forgot about that. I'm glad you said that because you're trying to build that up, right? With
Yeah.
more information. She just showed me today a bunch of pictures of when they first bought the house, and we came up here. My wife and I weren't even married yet, but we did like a painting party for the porch, and you can see different architectural pieces of the house with all those pictures and stuff. So back in the day.
So I will tell you personally, Steve, I know Steve knows a lot of the stuff off the top of his head. I will say I've been trying to catch up by actually really looking at what was used most frequently in town by period, and realizing that windows were definitely considered the style of window was considered historically contributing, and I've started putting that into a spreadsheet. I'd be happy to share that with you so you could see kind of what styles were most appropriate. But maybe Steve, what are your thoughts? And then also, of course, Karen, if you know the answer as well. Love to hear it.
And one thing I meant to mention too is like when we had Pella out this week, like they were recommending an aluminum clad window. So I think, and that's laid out specifically in the Appendix A, and I'm not sure it's allowed, but it's
yes, it should be.
Might be allowed, that kind of thing. So I don't know. Just tell me what you know, Steve. Tell me.
So we have approved, and it should be. I mean, I can try to do this search in real time while we're talking here. Let's look for aluminum clad. Screens. All right, I see it on screens. Siding. All right. Well, so what I know is that we have approved metal clad wooden windows with the baked on painted enamel finish because they wear like iron. And especially for second floors where it's really hard to get up and do work and maintenance on wood. It's an approved, we were trying to discourage vinyl because it doesn't weather well. And you get breakdown after some number of years, although some people for cost reasons want to do it. You mentioned, another thought is you mentioned that you had a 1/1 kind of single frame installed window that was kind of non-custom. It's always appropriate to have a bespoke window made by a carpenter. If it doesn't function, if it doesn't open and it's just 2 panes of glass, kind of like a 1/1, you could have that fabricated if you can't find it. I'm just saying, so that's always kind of like on the table, is doing something special. But if you wanted to do a double hung and actually have it functional, which is important for air movement and preserves the structure, I think that's completely appropriate too. Modular where it is. So if it's like in a gable, that might be odd, but I think we'd have to look at the actual design.
Yeah, the back porch flat, but beneath the roof line, so it's all.
But if it's on a wall, I think that's all, certainly doable, or we've approved that in the past. Okay. For the windows, we've approved Pella, we have approved with metal clad, we've approved Colby, and you can do Colby double hung. They've got a nice series that's it's actually a double glazed true divided light. There, I think what you want to do is look at your muntin widths and make sure that you try to get them as skinny and replicate the muntin. That's something you can specify when you order the window.
These are 1/1. They're like.
Oh yeah, I guess I'm thinking your other ones. You were saying. Yeah. If they're all 1/1, then that's even easier, right? You don't have to.
Yeah, even the vinyl ones that are there, they're so bad. Oh my god. Okay, so Colby's. Okay,
I have put Colby on my house, and that's what got approved when I was coming through, and it's got some nice features. They're tip in and they're really solid. They're they look historic from the street, I think. I would be interested in that spreadsheet. You mentioned, Guy, do you track the lights in the division of lights in the window by age? Because I'm not sure when 1/1 really. In my mind, that's a 20th century change. As glass got larger and people put in bigger windows, and so I'm just wondering, Dave, if the 1/1 is kind of a 20th century, especially if they were vinyl, like you were saying, swap out for something that might have been a true, a divided light, like a 6/6 or a 4/4.
Yes. Yeah, and that is one of the things that that's the level of detail I was trying to break out.
Yeah.
Number of panes, and that's what's taken me so long. When you start to break these things out into that level of granularity, it's like hundreds and hundreds of fields.
That's something to think about, Dave, is looking at kind of the period of your house. And I mean, if it's a cottage and it's 20th century, 1/1 might be right for the time. I'm down in the lower town. Everything down here is 6/6 divided light, just because we're kind of 1840.
Now, one thing I could say that, David, you could do very easily right now, if you have the link, which I hope you do, I'll send it to you if you don't. You can go in on the map, you can check the street, and it is very easy to see which homes of similar style from the similar period. The descriptions are included on every entry for the map.
Okay. Yeah, to me, I grew up with 2/2s in New England, and they would look better on this house, I think, honestly. But if let's just say, regardless of what, I'll find out what it says for the period. But if we switch from the current window division of light to a different one, if I could justify to you a better look, or in Guy's database where it is, that would be a good argument to make, I guess, is what you're saying.
So the other thing about cost and going down this path as you put in good windows, I've been doing them on my house. I've had to do one wall a year and save up the money. I could not afford to do the whole house, but I've just had to break it down and say, all right, it's the west wall, it's the south wall. I still haven't done the front. I'm doing it last. That's going to be the big reveal. But, that's, the only way I sympathize on the cost because it's eye watering.
Well, that's the other thing is like when, let's just say I can afford one wall and I do the 2x2 over here, but my 1/1 sit over there for.
It'll be out of sync for some number of years, but that's just like, I've got a house that's 3/4 white, 1/4 not white on the front right now. And it's just restoring, right? It's always a work in progress.
Yep.
But if you're
so you gotta let me do it. Come on. All right, that's good. That's good advice. I looked at Marvin windows too. Have you seen those around town or?
I did not look at Marvin, but they might have been installed up on Putnam Court, where there's some of the newer construction was up behind the town hall up on.
Yeah, that's where I moved from here. So
Pella, the ones I remember, we were very, as a council, we looked at Pella and Colby products in their cladding, in the fact that it was all metal, all the components are wood, glass, and metal, so it meets the assembly criteria. There's like no plastic in it. And that was really what we were trying to go for, and something that would weather and continue to look appropriate. And that's where the vinyl if you leave it and it fades and kind of cracks, and then you kind of get this odd looking.
That's the plan anyway. So, so if we take out the vinyl and do something better, that's good. Okay.
It'll weather a lot longer.
Yep.
It'll probably give you another 30 years on it.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good. I got more than I expected, so thanks for taking the time to give me the information.
Sure. I don't know. There used to be a place, Shenandoah Sash and Door, that had a lot of windows on display, but they went out of business when everything went into shutdown 2 years ago. So I'm not sure where there's a good showroom, but I guess if you call around, you could find a.
Yeah, look, I did like Pella that they're the installers and the manufacturers, so there's none of that. Oh, it's the manufacturing issue or
right.
I'm in the middle, so I kind of like that. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Debbie's back here. She can shut you guys down.
All right. Well, then I move, team, for what do we say, to adjourn the meeting?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thanks, and thank you, Deb, for coming in and helping us with this. Really appreciate it. And we'll be sure. I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of the virtual meetings. The only reason I've ever come in person is because Christian loves those in-person meetings. So we'll make sure to make them virtual as much as possible going forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the mayor is also in favor of the in-person meetings, but yeah, just communicating about it is really what helps me. Yeah, I can do it either way. I just have to be in the right place in the beginning.
Oh,
sure.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Clad.